Most popular touchscreen titles known to the public are mostly mobile games like Candy Crush, Fruit Ninja, or Angry Birds. It's embarrassing to think that there's a large population of normal people who consider themselves actual hardcore gamers because they invest hours into playing these kinds of casual games alone, and yet they've never touched a DualShock in their life. Moving on, the best touchscreen games in my opinion are the kind that don't use a smartphone. Touchscreen gaming feels more authentic when it's applied to a device that's specifically meant for that medium, like the Nintendo DS or the Leapster GS. That's right, I used to be a Leapster gamer too, because they're usually designed to have additional peripherals or accessories that make the gaming experience on that device worth having, like a stylus for example. Imagine having to suffer playing every DS game with just your finger. That would make almost every game for the console basically unplayable. Plus imagine how annoying it would be trying to play a game like The World Ends With You using your fingers alone. Just the thought of it sounds exhausting. And don't even get me started on semi, half, or direct ports of AAA console titles. Like recently I've been hearing a lot of hype about a new Devil May Cry called Peak of Combat, but because it's a mobile game, I'm already hesitant of the idea of seeing my own fingers on the screen in addition to trying to watch the superb action that DMC is known for. Capcom has regularly displayed a habit of disappointing its fandoms for fan-favorite games such as Devil May Cry, Mega Man, and dare I even talk about the offense they made against the whole Marvel vs. Capcom community when MVC Infinite came out. On the subject of Capcom, by the way, I recently discovered one of my favorite arcade games is actually a one-to-one translation of a popular mobile game made in 2013. This is mind-blowing because it never crossed my mind that I was essentially playing an oversized version of a mobile game. An arcade game so engaging that I had to jump on the idea of making a video about it while it was still fresh in my mind. Let me introduce you to the CrossBeats series. CrossBeats started off as a tap mobile game developed by Capcom for the iOS, produced by a rhythm game composer, Naoki Maeda, who's most notable for producing original soundtracks for rhythm games from Konami's Bomani series such as Dance Dance Revolution. From 2013 to 2018, the game was mostly a mobile title that used various free-to-play elements. The game was notable for promoting hit singles from already established Capcom games like Mega Man or Ace Attorney, which was the game's main promotional gimmick. Essentially, it started off as a rhythm game specifically designed for Capcom fans. If you like Mega Man, who wouldn't want to play a rhythm game revolving around playing the original soundtracks from the series? So a Capcom-flavored rhythm game for mobile devices sounds pretty neat, right? Well, what would it be like if that concept was taken out of the smartphone and into an arcade cabinet? This is CrossBeats Rev Sunrise, the current addition to the CrossBeats Rev series. The Rev series, released in 2015, takes the core gameplay and interface of the mobile game and oversizes it to bring the excitement of the mobile game to an arcade cabinet. Even though it's the same official game as its predecessor, CrossBeats Rev, released in 2016, the game allows offline playability with most of its content still intact. Before I start talking about the gameplay for CrossBeats Rev Sunrise, I have to specify my experience with the series is through the arcade version. Believe me when I tell you that this game is very accessible for any newcomers to almost any rhythm game. When starting a CrossBeats Rev cabinet, the first menu is the music selection. This series is notable for including J-pop tracks from popular anime and original soundtracks from Capcom's hit library of video games. The menu includes displays for the game's 5 difficulties and 5 music genres. I'll happily go more into detail about both topics later on in the video. After selecting a desired soundtrack to play, the loading screen presents the player with a note speed meter at the bottom of the screen. This is done so the player can quickly decide whether they want to adjust the speed of the soundtrack. The gameplay screen is very simple to comprehend. The user interface displays the following information: the stage number in the top left, the soundtrack name and artist to the right of that, and the life bar right under the aforementioned names. To the top right is the high score counter. The following counters are displayed on the bottom of the screen: difficulty, music level, and beats per minute. The bottom center is the music playing meter, which displays a gauge of how far the player is into the song. The gameplay is simple to understand right from the get-go. If you know how to maneuver your fingers on a smartphone, then you will definitely pick up the groove of playing CrossBeats Rev with ease. Step 1. Single touch. Every music note in the game is represented with an RGB circle that's followed by 2 guidelines that create a corner of a rectangle, where 2 arrows will slide down the lines reaching the circle to notify the player when to tap the circle. Step 2. Multi-touch. The second step involves not just tapping multiple music notes on screen, but also tapping multiple notes while paying attention to the direction the corners point in. so the player can optionally choose which hand they want to designate for each corner's direction. For example, the player can designate right side facing corners with their right hand and vice versa with their left. This can also be done oppositely by designating right side facing corners with your left hand and vice versa with the right. Step 3. Hold. The third step involves performing an extended tap by holding a square-shaped note surrounded by 4 lines on each corner, creating an X followed by 4 arrows sliding down those lines, and requires the player to hold the note for an extended period of time. Step 4. Flick. The fourth step is flick notes. Flick notes are represented by an icon that looks like a guitar pick, and requires the player to slide their finger across the screen in whatever direction it's pointing. Alongside its intuitive gameplay, CrossBeats Rev's score system measures the player's reaction speed with an in-game style system that applauds the player based on the timing they respond to a music note. The accolade timing system works like so. Flawless. Flawless taps award the player 100 points. Super. Super taps award the player 50 points. Cool. Cool taps award the player 10 points. When it comes to CrossBeats Rev Sunrise's form factor, there's not a whole lot that can be said about the cabinet. The cabinet itself is given a few nice visual touches to make it pop out as an official arcade game, such as a plastic logo cover at the front featuring the game's logo, and occasionally you might find a cabinet with a flyer explaining the basic gameplay. I'm surprised these are actually more common than I thought. But overall, a regular CrossBeats Rev Sunrise cabinet does not have much to physically or visually distinguish it. I wish there was more I could add to discussing its form factor, but there's really not a whole lot that sticks out about it that's significant enough for me to talk about. But I guess the simplicity of its design complements the game's approachability for rhythm game newcomers. No complex button placements, no workout-inducing dance pads, and no... whatever this is. Alright, from here on out, I got nothing but great things to say about every other aspect of this arcade spin-off. Let me level with you by talking about the aesthetic, starting with the user interface. This game looks fabulous. From the menu screen to the soundtrack covers to the gameplay, especially on a high level. CrossBeats Rev Sunrise hooks you into its vibrant and almost immersive style of play just from its aesthetic alone. The intricate colored backgrounds in each stage almost give the game a 3D effect, and you can see it the more your fingers interact with the screen, almost like you could stick your whole hand into the game as if it were a portal to a high-speed rhythm-powered world where your love and intrigue for J-pop sends you on a cascading journey. Almost every individual track in the game offers a unique background aesthetic that sets the vibe for the song you're playing. You'll notice that melodic tracks have colorful and elegant backgrounds to match the easygoing or emotional feeling of the song, or cybernetic and techno tracks have hard industrial backgrounds that almost look like cityscapes you can soar through. Traditional electric guitar and drum soundtracks feature transparent images of instruments transitioning from one another before exploding into an array of sound effects matching the beat of your fingertaps, and hip-hop and drum and bass inspired gems display esoteric technology inspired backgrounds to convey the advanced nature of the audio you're expressing. Lastly, I don't know what it is about certain arcade games that make them feel like I'm always on vacation somewhere, like the Bahamas or something, but believe me when I say the audio for this game does a great job of giving off the vibe like you just borrowed a few quarters to hit up the local arcade on a cruise spa. Speaking of the audio, I'm going to explode gushing about the selection of soundtracks that I found. As I mentioned before, this is a Capcom rhythm game, so there's already a fine selection of Capcom video game soundtracks included into the series from Phoenix Wright, Mega Man, Monster Hunter, and to the original arcade fighting game itself, Street Fighter. Not only is this series jam-packed with fan-favorite tracks from Capcom video games though, but also includes some recognizable anime singles from hit shows such as The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. But as a rhythm game enthusiast, I'm always more interested in exploring what other unique tracks rhythm games have to offer outside what I recognize from video games and TV shows. So I dug deep into the game's selection to find what songs I thought would be absolute bangers. I was more than pleased to have found multiple tracks. I couldn't help myself but practice playing them multiple times because I enjoyed listening to them so much, and they also offered a great head start for me to practice playing the game on higher difficulties. When it comes to difficulty, I can't say this enough. The CrossBeats series is one of the most newcomer-friendly rhythm games I've played to date. If you're lost on where to start with the rhythm game genre, this series would be an absolutely great place to start. The game offers 5 difficulties: easy, standard, hard, master, and unlimited. On top of the levels of difficulty, the player is also given the option to modify the speed of the track they're playing. This gives the game an added level of intensity as the player gives himself the challenge of improving their own reaction time. A lot of tracks offer a fair challenge to newcomers in just standard mode alone, so newbies can comfortably play on standard difficulty if they just want to casually enjoy the game. Being the gamer I am though, I mostly use standard mode to warm up and work my way up to getting accommodated to playing the game on hard mode. And let me tell you, I really did not know what I was missing out on from choosing to play CrossBeats Rev Sunrise on easier difficulties. Have you ever played one of those games that looks really awesome on higher difficulties? Capcom has always been the masters of producing titles that look incredible when played on a higher level of trial. A few notable examples that come to mind are Sengoku Basara, Beautiful Joe, or even Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And I can proudly say that Capcom puts the same amount of passion into what is currently their only most popular rhythm-based game on the market. I was lucky enough to meet a Twitch streamer, Jammitch, who personally owns a cabinet of the game and loves to show off his mastery of CrossBeats Rev Sunrise on harder levels too. I'll provide a link in the description for his channel. Even I did my best to master the tracks I liked on hard mode, in an effort to get enough footage to visually display how phenomenal CrossBeats Rev Sunrise looks when you can actually play a song on hard mode without failover. It's amazing. Before I started this video review series, CrossBeats was one of the first games that came to mind, and I'm so glad I took the time and energy to make a video about it, because it's one of the most enjoyable arcade rhythm games I've ever played ever since I was in college. It's not just fun because it's easy for anyone to pick up, but also because the gameplay is as addictive as any mainstream mobile game on the market. The visual aesthetic is fresh, inviting, and cleverly used to immerse the player into the game's style. The soundtracks are killer, and the game does a great job of providing a fine selection of tunes from some of Capcom's most iconic titles. And even though I didn't realize it at first, the game does a great job of incentivizing and easing players into challenging themselves to play the game on higher difficulties. If you're a skeptic of rhythm games and whatever they have to offer, trust me when I say that CrossBeats Rev Sunrise is a great place to start. Working on this video was a blast, and I'm super psyched to get started on my next arcade game review. Not only did I put in a lot of time playing CrossBeats, but I also made sure to get started practicing other hit rhythm games such as Guitadora and Sound Voltex in preparation for when I wanted to get started reviewing those games. So I have some really great alternate ideas like a Trinket game review series where I'll review and give my thoughts on unique Trinket style games like Tamagotchi, Mega Man PETs, or Digimon V-Pets and Digivices. Until then, stay frosty.